You may recall that when we first spoke about the algorithms and Olympiad track, we spoke about two parts of this course. One is, of course, the classes where we look at the theoretical and conceptual aspects, and those classes then lead into homework and self practice. Obviously, that is very, very important for our learning. Now, we have spoken elsewhere about how this whole mechanism works. The second part of the course was this, discussion forum, something that I'm extremely, extremely excited about. The idea is to create a closed group of students, which is Y students along with qualified mentors, so that students can discuss problems, share ideas, and learn from each other. And we are very, very hopeful that this will become a very, very useful resource for students going forward. And this will continue even after the classes get over. In fact, we explored a lot of options for this. But finally, we are settling into creating a private repository at GitHub and enabling discussions in there. I'll talk about this in a moment. Basically, this is a private group. This is important so that only those who have been authorized to enter are a part of this, which means our students and our mentors, they are a part of this. Students and mentors join this repository and they can be a part of this discussion forum. Since there are some, let's say, new terms in this, let me just go step by step and explain what all this means and how does a student, let's say, become a part of this. So let's start with what is GitHub. Well, GitHub is this very, let's say, popular platform, that allows developers to create, store, manage, and share their code. Think about it. When we work on large projects, for example, let's say many open source projects, or even in a company, it's more often it's almost never a single person doing his code. In fact, multiple people collaborate. Now, in this situation, something like GitHub becomes really, really important because different people can come together, they can leverage from each other's work, and together they can create something of great value. Even as an individual developer, GitHub is of value because GitHub is basically a cloud-based service that lets us store and organize our code. So, the way you think about it, say you are writing code now. In this case, could be some Python projects, or let's say the class, the collab notebooks that we're talking of. Is basically code. You can, obviously you can store it in your drive, but you can also, like we discussed elsewhere, you can also store this in GitHub. So GitHub becomes like a repository, and that's exactly what we have done. Now one thing that is very, very important about this is that GitHub allows us to do what is called version control. Now basically the idea is that the ability to track changes on a code, the ability to, let's say, go back on a certain change and, let's say, collaborate basis that, right? This is a very, very, very important part of software development. But I will let you guys explore this yourself. So the point is, GitHub is a useful and, let's say, popular platform, particularly with open source projects and even with proprietary code bases. So that's basically the infrastructure that we are using, a place where we can store code. That's called a repository. So we, as YByte, have created a repository called YByte algorithms. So, basically, this notice, there's a lock over here. There's a private repository. Basically, it tells you that, look, this is not open for everybody. Only those who are added as collaborators can become a part of this repository. Now, the repository itself has, let's say, the codes from the class, those notebooks that we are talking of. But the interesting bit, as far as we are concerned, is that we have enabled discussions onto this repository. So, which means that whoever becomes a part of this repository can now participate in the discussion forum, and that's how this whole thing gets enabled. So, the way it works is basically you are a part of this repository on being invited. So, only YByte students and mentors. Hence, it's a safe, secure environment. Once that is set, you can initiate a discussion, you can, respond to others, and so on and so forth, right? So very, very interesting, lots of possibilities come. Now, what is it that we are looking for from the discussion group? Just a sampling of questions. You could say, okay, look, I'm working on this problem. I'm getting stuck at this step. Does anybody have any thoughts? So people might respond, right? Can you help me get some problems related to, let's say, practice sorting, or perhaps, let's say, greedy algorithms, right? So, somebody can point you to that. Any alternative solution to this problem. So I'm working on a problem. I've come up with, let's say, a solution based on, let's say, XYZ algorithm. But can there be a better algorithm? Can there be a different algorithm, maybe with lower complexity or something like that, right? Or you might find something interesting which you think you want to share with others. You can just put this also on the group, right? So the point is that this, infrastructure is for us to make useful, right? I mean, discussion forum alone is just an infrastructure, but depends on how we are using it. I think this can become very, very lively and its value can increase over time. Like I said, our hope is that this will stay, this will keep on growing even after the course itself gets over, right? So new students come in, they can join in, and I think over time the value can really go up, right? Provided we use it properly. So that's the whole idea here. Obviously we'll also evolve as we go along. Now, at this point, what do students need to do? Well, they need to create a GitHub account. Now, this is free. In fact, very easy to create. You can do some search on the internet and you'll know how to do it. I'll just tell you very quickly. Basically, go to github.com and you notice you enter your email. Pretty much you can sign up for GitHub. So there's some amount of verification that's done in the background, but very simple. You will get a username assigned to yourself. Share that username with us, right? So that's your GitHub profile name. So once you share that with us, you can let us know what your username is on GitHub. We will add you as a collaborator on the course repository. So I just spoke about this repository, Vybyte Algorithms. Once we get your GitHub profile name, remember this is only for Vybyte students and mentors, and hence it's a safe environment. Now, once a part of the repository, like I said, we have enabled discussions on the repository, and hence you can start participating in the discussion forum, and it's up to us to make it useful. Now, additional to all this, and this is optional, completely up to the students, you'll find value in this as you move forward. Students can create their own repositories. They can start exploring many other repositories that are out there. In fact, one of the reasons we gravitated in favor of GitHub compared to other tools is because its value in the community of developers, right? Both in the open source community as well as the proprietary software development. GitHub is a important tool. There's obviously a lot more to learn. I'm just touching like the tip of the iceberg. But my advice to students is get started, because this is a good tool. And things like version control, managing software, these are all extremely vital parts of software development journey. Once you are part of this, you'll see that a lot of these things will become much more natural to you. So, as always, come in and explore. Now, remember that all these platforms that we're talking of, be it Colab, be it GitHub, these are extremely popular in the world of developers, but they can be a little bit overwhelming to start. However, the best way to get comfortable with them is to start using them. And that is the opportunity you have here, right? So, create an account, join the forum. Over time, you realize that you'll get so comfortable with it, and your, vision of the whole software development process would have matured so much more by doing this. On that note, always, forever enjoy coding. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.